In today's video, we are going to talk about the Atlas DSP DI Suite. This is a DI suite specifically made for in-the-box heavy guitar tones. This video is sponsored by Atlas DSP, who gracefully sent me a free version so I can try it out. Let's go! The DI series pack includes 3 different plugins, the first one being DI Crank, then DI REKAK and DI-L. Let's start with DI Crank. Yeah, it's a kind of EQ saturation preamp plugin. Features: precision EQ control, 100Hz, 250Hz, 500Hz knobs to scale the low and mid frequencies for a tighter, punchier tone, 1 kHz, 2 kHz and 4 kHz knobs to add subtle saturation, to refine the signal and enhance articulation. Drive slider, add grit and bite to your tone, pushing your enzyme for maximum chug. Next one is DI-L, and it's a powerful high-gain distortion and tone shaping plugin designed for aggressive guitar and bass tones. Features: advanced tone control to shape your sound with grind, tight and bright knobs to fine-tune the frequency spectrum. Dynamic attack shaping, some kind of transient designer I guess. Built-in noise gate, dual character switch, bite and slam slider, and pre-clip protection to prevent digital clipping by limiting the input. It feels like it's a blend of a precision drive and a classic tube screamer. I have a feeling that this pedal could replace a lot of different options. Really looking forward to hear how it sounds. Next one is DI REKAK, ultimate fuzz and octave weapon for guitar and basses. DI REKAK is a crushing fuzz and tone sculpting plugin designed to transform your guitar or bass into a wall of harmonically rich, octave-infused destruction. Features: fuzz control, blend knob, distro switch, and a gate control to tame unwanted noise and clean up your signal. This one looks super interesting as a tone shaping option, a creative kind of DI, rather than a classic tube screamer. Now let's see what we can create with the DI series pack. We are inside the Reaper session of the demo song I specifically created for the DI series pack. Let's hear what I did. In this specific song, I used the DI-L to tighten up the chugs, and I also used the DI REKAK as a specific octaver for the end part. The guitar in this part sounds a bit like a really distorted, saturated synth, and that was the idea I had. Let's dive deeper and see the specific section where I used the DI-L. Okay, now let's hear the same section without the DI. One more time. Again, same thing, just with the isolated guitar track. DIL off. Okay, so there is a difference. Obviously, in this specific scenario, the guitars are not tuned super low. I'm playing a drop C guitar, which has Fishman Fluence models inside, so the DI sound is already quite tight, but I feel like the DIL is really pushing a bit more the amp and giving that really super aggressive modern sound that I was looking for in this section. In this next section, I used the DI REKAK as an octaver. Same thing now with the DI REKAK off. Okay, so as you can hear there, the effect is really drastic. It really transforms your guitar DI in something which does not really sound like a guitar anymore. And that was the goal I was aiming for. I think in this specific song, it really gives an interesting vibe, and the riffs would not be interesting at all, in my opinion, without this specific tone shaping effect used there. So I really like what it does. I think this is a super interesting effect you can just throw around to take your guitar riff to the next level. So let's see now how it sounds with the isolated guitar track. DI REKAK on. Same thing with the DI off. Okay, so now I want to do something different. I want to play around with the different DI settings for each plugin. For this part of the video, I really want to hear how the DI settings can sound. So we are going to use an amp simulation, which is super simple and which has absolutely like no settings. And for this, I'm going to use a super nice Mesa Boogie simulation by Bogren Digital, which is called RevC. First of all, I'm going to make sure the setup is stereo and DSP high quality. And this is how it will sound without anything on the guitar DI. Alright, so let's first see what we can do with the crank. Okay, so I'm not sure how to use this one, to be honest. I think it really gives a drastic EQ change. It feels like a really powerful EQ curve in front of your amp, and I think it can be interesting in specific situations, but it also changes a lot the way the amp sounds. So I think if you want to make your guitar sound like another guitar, this might be an interesting choice, but I'm not really sure of how to use it. So yeah, let's move on and see what we can do with the DIL. I think it's super interesting. You can really do a lot of things, like the tight knob is acting a bit like a mid boost to me. But let's put everything to 0 again and here. Like, yeah, 1000 kilohertz boost, kind of. The bright switch is more for the high end. Okay, but again, this is really powerful, so don't go too far with the settings, with the knobs. Really a powerful curve. So let's put everything back to 0, and yeah, put a bit of gate, because my DI techs are not super clean, to be honest. Let's see how the attack knob sounds. So I went with the maximum setting on the knob, but I really think this is super powerful. The attack knob is really changing the way the pickup sounds, but not in an EQ kind of way. It really changes the way the amp is reacting to the pickups. And I think this is a super interesting knob. Let's see what we can do with only the tight switch, if the tight switch sounds better. Okay, so to me the tight switch is a bit more like an EQ. It's a bit contradictory, but I think the attack knob might be better to tighten things up. Let's see what we can do with the bright knob. Okay, so the bright knob is a bit like the EQ knobs you would have on a rat saturation pedal to me. Let's hear the grind knob. So I am not really sure about what the grind knob does. I think it might work in some specific situations where you are playing with passive pickups and you want to have more outputs, like before the amp. In this specific scenario with the Fishman Fluence Modern, I think the output might be too high already. No, I'm a bit curious about the L and rock switch, so let's keep everything to 0 and see if it changes anything. It sounds like it is changing where the peak of the mid-range is. So really interesting. I think in this specific situation, the L position on the switch works better. No, I'm really curious about the sliders, the drive, saturation, and bite. So we are going to fiddle around with the sliders. I'm not super convinced by the drive slider because I think the difference is really drastic. However, the saturation one, I really like it, and the bite time can give you different flavors. Honest opinion about the DIL is that, to me, it's probably one of the best DI plugin I ever used. If I was able to buy the analog piece of gear, I would do it instantly. This thing can replace any other DI, like front of the amps pedal you would ever use. The design is super smart, so I would say Atlas DSP, you did a amazing job with this one. And the price versus quality and options, tonal options you get is insane. Don't sleep on this one. The DIL by Atlas DSP is probably one of my favorite plugins of 2025. Now we are entering the fuzz and octave territory, so obviously the settings are going to be drastic. We are going to hear a big difference in the sound, but this is precisely what we want here, so let's go. So I'm not sure if this one can handle stereo inputs and outputs, so we are going to use two separate instances in each of the DI track just to be sure that this is the right setting. So, I don't have a lot to say about this one. I really like it. I really like how it sounds. I think like every setting you get with this one, like you can put the blend knob to 100%, the fuzz knob to 100%, and whatever if you set the destroy switch on or off, it sounds great. Like you can do anything with this one, and it gives you a super interesting tone shaping option that works. Again, for this one, I would say amazing job Atlas DSP. If I was able to buy the analog version and have it on my touring pedalboard, I would definitely do it. You just slam it before your anthem and it just works, and it gives you this really like nearly heavy, aggressive, saturated synth-like sound. So I really like it. Let's hear it once again in context, because I really, really like what it does. Definitely better with this thing on. Alright, so we are reaching the end of this video, and I really hope you liked it and it gave you some interesting overview about what you can do with the Atlas DSP DI series. Honestly, I really like what they did with this series. I think it gives you a lot of tone shaping options, and it allows you to shape your sound rather than getting lost in multiple options inside an amp theme. And I think this is a super efficient and super interesting approach. A huge thank you again to Atlas DSP for trusting me and for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you want to support me. Also, if you want to get your hands on, you can grab the session DIs as well as stems and guitar tabs in the description. This is the best way to support me so I can keep creating music, I can keep creating content, and I can keep creating plugin reviews like this video. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.